All right. Shalom. Yahal Bashem Yahushai Barakatah. This is Elder Taza Dakba. I'm doing this quick hit for the brother Elder Ayathun's channel, GMS on air. And what I'm going to talk about very briefly is a situation among the Swedes. Now, the brother Elder Ayathun earlier in the week, he sent this article out to all the brothers. And the article is named Swedes Seethe Over Documentary Claiming Their Ancestors Were Dark-Skinned. Sputnik News, February 18th, 2019. This article came out. Now, there's a documentary that's about to hit the airwaves. I don't know exactly what day or when, but the documentary is going to show that the first Swedes were black people, and white people are in an uproar over this situation because we've been told throughout our lives here in America that the Vikings, because the Norsemen, we've been told that the Norsemen were white people. You got white people that do murals of Vikings being white men with these big axes and this long blonde hair, and they have this hat on that has the horns coming out the hat and all that, and they like to paint themselves as some type of warrior type Vikings. Well, those warriors or those Vikings, those Norsemen, were the ones who sailed and encountered the Native American Indians here in North America and established trade with them. Okay, they didn't come here and have war with the Native American Indians. They established trade with each other. The Vikings were also the ones who mapped out North, Central, South America, Canada. Okay, if you want to use a word called cartography, they were the ones who drew up what was known as, there's two sets of maps. There's something known as the famed Vinland map, and there's another set of maps known as the Piri-Reis maps. And Columbus, the devil that he is, had these maps in his possession. That's what's not told to us in history. He had access to Vatican archives, which they had those maps, early maps that the Vikings had drew up of Canada, North, Central, and South America. Okay, so Columbus coming over here in 1492 knew exactly where he was coming to, and he knew the people that were over here in the Americas were Israelites because he had Hebrew interpreters with him when he came over. Now, that's another story. Now, getting back to the Vikings, or getting back to the early Swedes, back to this article. It says, the first Swedes were dark-skinned hunters and collectors who moved to Scandinavia from the south at the end of the Ice Age. There, they were quickly joined by another immigration wave, this time from the east, resulting in Stone Age Europe's most diverse population. A new documentary by the Sweden's national SVT broadcaster has claimed the first Swedes. A new documentary by the SVT national broadcaster has been met with critical reaction and backlash ahead of its airing. It hasn't even been aired yet. Now, I'm going to read here what a professor named Matthias Jacobson, a professor of genetics in Uppsala University and a researcher of the Atlas Project. This is what he says, which aims, the research he does maps the human genome. His research is on mapping the human genome. Now, what he says is this. He maps the genome of Sweden's early population. He stressed that unlike present-day Swedes, their ancestors had dark skin as a legacy of their African origin. Now, they always throw the word African in there, but the origin of these early Swedes was, guess what? Israelites. They weren't Africans, they were Israelites. Their look was quite similar to the people that at that time lived in today's Luxembourg and Spain and Germany. Now, he's going back into history. He's talking about the early Swedes look like the same people that were in Luxembourg and Spain and Germany back at that time. He's not talking about in this time, modern day. He's talking about back at that time. Those early Swedes look like the same people that was in Luxembourg, Spain, and Germany. Their look would be quite unusual today blue eyes with dark skin. Okay? Now, that's what the professor said that the early Swedes would look like. I'm going to read the quote again. That would look like the people at that time that lived in Luxembourg, Spain, and Germany. Now, the people who lived in Luxembourg, Spain, and Germany back at those times, what did they look like? Now, some of you might say, oh, you black guys are crazy, especially those of you that's into the so-called whack conscious community, as we call it. Now you're going to say the Vikings is black now. First you're saying the Europeans is black, because to you, anything from Europe is white, which is a goddamn lie. But now I got some other irrefutable evidence. Benjamin Franklin, who was an inventor, he's the man that's on the $100 bill, right? We call him Franklin's, right? Now, let me pull that up. It's hard to try to put out information and just make it like 5 minutes. It's really hard to do that. But I'm just going to get to the point in this article. The name of Ben Franklin's article is called Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind in 1751, is when he wrote this essay, okay? And it's called Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind, 1751. Let me go to the bottom. Now remember what we just read in that article about the early Swedes being black, and that the professor said that the people in Luxembourg, Spain, and Germany at that time looked the same as the Swedes that were in Sweden at that time, the early Swedes. Now, Benjamin Franklin says this. Paragraph, the very last paragraph, he says here, which leads me, as a matter of fact, let me start up a little bit above. He says here, and since detachments of English from Britain sent to America will have their places at home so soon supplied and increased so largely here, why should the Palatine Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements, and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours? He's like, why should we let people from other countries come here and settle, and then they're going to establish their manners and their language instead of ours? Now he goes on to say, why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead? Notice he said to Germanize us, the English. He's talking about Germans at the time in 1751. Now, watch what he goes on to say. He says here that Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them, because they try to claim that they're the Anglo-Saxons, but the original Anglo-Saxons, the word Anglo-Saxon means angelic sons of Isaac. The angelic sons of Isaac are the Israelites, not you so-called white people, okay? Now let me read on. It says, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion. So wait a minute, if these people in Germany were supposed to be white people, like a lot of you stupid ass niggas out there that claim to be conscious or woken up, right? You think everybody in Europe is white. Benjamin Franklin said that these people would Germanize us like we're Americanized right now. We're American citizens, so we're Americanized. We speak the English language, we into the football game, the basketball game, boxing, all right? All right, so Ben Franklin said, why should we let these aliens, in other words, foreigners from Germany, come in here and Germanize us? They will not accept our language no more than they will be able to accept our skin color, which Benjamin Franklin is a so-called white man. So the people in Germany were what? Black. Now let me read on. He says here, because it's going to tie into the article I read about the early Swedes. Now, so I got to blow this up a little bit. Let me try to turn this around so I can get it a little bit bigger, man, because it's getting a little darker out here. Here we go. It says, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionately very small. All Africa is black or tawny. Now the word tawny means like a yellowish brown, a reddish brown, which would be like what you white people call copper tone. Because you white people that go to these salons, you get a tan and you look like more orangish brown than anything else. So that's a copper tone right there. And a light brown, a copper tone, or a yellowish brown is what the word tawny means. So it means that they're a person of color. It's not a so-called white person. I'm gonna read again. All Africa is black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. That's where you get, when we say high yellow, your high yellow ass, a light brown. Or the word tawny can mean like, you look at the coat of a lion, sandy brown, or how that lion has that nice light brown tinge or tan on his coat. He says all Africa is black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers. Who were the newcomers? You so-called white people. In other words, he's saying the Native Americans are what? Brown also. He didn't call them red people. That stigma of calling the Native Americans red people, that didn't exist during the early colonial times. That came later, because Ben Franklin, this is 1751, when he was wrote this essay. So now I'm gonna read on. He said, Asia chiefly tawny, America exclusive of the newcomers. Who were the newcomers? You so-called white people. Wholly so. America was wholly so full of what? Brown people. People that were dark skinned and people who were tawny, right? And he says, and in Europe, the Spaniards, the Italians, the French, the Russians, and the Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion. Swarthy means they're black. So the early Swedes, like we read in that article about the Swedes were seething because a documentary is about to come out saying that the early Swedes were black and had blue eyes. White people over there is getting pissed off. But Benjamin Franklin in 1751 made this statement in an essay that was published 3 years later in 1754 and distributed everywhere. Right? Let me pull it back up because my screen went dark on me. Let me pull it back up. I'm gonna read it again. He says, and in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, the French, the Russians, and the Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. Remember he said in the beginning, don't let these aliens, these Germans come in and Germanize us? He even said the Germans also are all what? They're niggas, swarthy. Going back to the word Schwart, and the German word Schwart means black. Schwarzer, black. If a so-called Jew, which they speak Yiddish, right? If they say to you, Mashugana Schwarzer, they're calling you a dumb nigga. Mashugana means dumb. Schwarzer is black. So they're calling you a dumb nigga. Mashugana Schwarzer. He said the people, I'm gonna read it again. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, the French, the Russians, and the Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. Okay? So that was all I'm going to say right there on that. Now, I'm going to end this off with the scripture because this is supposed to be a quick hit. But it's... bear with me one moment because, you know, it's kind of slow. My phone is moving a little slow here. And this ain't nothing but the devil that the Bible speaks of, you know, prince of the power of the air. Now he's messing with the frequency, so I can't, I'm trying to get to a Bible scripture so I can read the scripture to close this, to close this lesson out. And you see, like I'm not lying, my phone is like frozen up on me now. So it won't allow me to go there. So let me go into it right now. Job 11:3. It says, should thy lies make men hold their peace? So should the lies of the so-called white man make us hold our peace? The lies about the the French, the Spaniards, the Swedes, the Germans being so-called white people when we know that they were black. When you're one of your inventors of the modern era, Benjamin Franklin, said that the people of these different lands are swarthy, of a swarthy complexion, which means black. Okay? Job 11:3. Should thy lies make men hold their peace is the question. And when thou mockest, shall no man make thee ashamed. Now we're making your ass ashamed because the truth is coming out through the spirit and power of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.